What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your creative unconscious reading for May 28th. I was meditating on the energy, and I felt for a while this week that I felt spirit kind of nudging me towards this particular topic that we're covering today, even though I was like, nope, nope, nope. And also, no. But it just has to do with embodiment and being in our bodies and taking up space, but allowing ourselves to take up space within ourselves as well, right? Now, I was thinking about the altar that our body is, and just the ways that we like, what are we leaving at the altar of our bodies? Are we leaving sacrifices, or are we leaving offerings? And it's not just a perspective, but there are other sides of this too. And I think about how we need to lay our offerings down at the altar of our bodies, and we also need to place our weapons down too, in terms of the ways we think about ourselves, and the things we say about ourselves in the quiet of our minds, at 2 or 3 a.m. if we wake up and we worry and all of these thoughts come rushing in, right? And I was thinking about transitioning. It'll be a year as of January. So my birthday's January 29th, and then I didn't realize this. Go Spirit. But I didn't realize this, but exactly 6 months to the day, so July 29th of last year, I came out and started transitioning. So that was amazing. And as you can tell, the tea is doing wonderful things voice-wise, and all of, like, I feel at home in my body. And there are so many changes taking place. And in terms of taking up space, this is very vulnerable making for me to talk about. So I was like, Spirit, do we have to? Like, is this necessary? And it's not that I don't mind talking about it. It was just something that I felt like it was, it doesn't just touch on bodies that are cisgender. It touches on transgender bodies. It touches on non-binary trans bodies, which is mine. So non-binary trans being that it's kind of both and, but also either or, and yet neither at the same time. So just thinking about, the first times that I think about what you bring in your body into a room the minute that you walk into a room. So I remembered feeling very self-conscious before I started transitioning, because when I would walk into a room, I felt like the part of me that I did not want that just felt, I felt at a sense of dis-ease, which, as you can imagine, manifested later in a very similar form, less conjunct though, less of a conjunction and more of the full word. But when I would walk into a room, I felt like my chest would always enter before I did, right? My chest would always enter first and would be the first thing that people would notice. And even now, when people can't really tell what my gender is based on my voice, they look here as if that will tell them. And I wear a binder because I have not yet had top surgery, which my friends have given me the term for this is the technical term is the teat yeet surgery. But you can take that and use that and run with it, friends. That's fine. But it was always that first part of me that would enter a room. What does this have to do with embodiment and taking up space? Well, it was always this feeling of, it was never a hatred for my body. It was not a loathing of it. It was just a recognition that it was not the body that I would feel the most at home and comfortable with. So gender dysphoria was the prominent way to describe that feeling within me. And I know that people have body dysmorphia. That's what I was thinking of in other ways as well, right? And, there's this persistence. There's this persistent tug that it pulls at your energy in all these different ways. And it's about making peace with your body on the one hand, but then also understanding that what we have here in this lifetime are beautiful tools that we've never had before to make body and spirit and all of these parts of us align, right? Now, that's not to suggest there's any kind of mistake. It's not thinking like that at all, because I don't believe that at all. I feel like the transformative process that trans folks go through is a gift, not just of healing to themselves, but the way that they go through that process and the space made for that process is a gift for cisgender folks here too. And I was thinking about this in the context of healing, in the ways that our bodies are like altars, and we bring these sacrifices or offerings. And, we can bring sacrifices and they never really feel quite the same as when they're offerings. And the difference, the energetic difference between that. And, when I started so there's something called trans tape, where when you're binding, it allows you, it's often, I think it's like K tape or PK tape, one of the, whichever one it is. It's like kinesiology tape, I think it is. So people who have injuries will use it, but it's similar to that, but it's a lot better on the skin. So it would hold everything up so that it would be a flatter appearance. Now, when I wear binders, you can't really tell, right? Which is brilliant for me. I love that. It makes me feel very at home when I'm in the world, moving about in it. And this is not to malign any divine feminine within, because a lot of trans exclusionary radical feminists would say that is the rejection of the feminine, and could not be the furthest thing from the truth. It is a welcoming of the non-duality that exists within me. And it's also a multiplicity of gender identities as well. That's why I prefer they, them pronouns. And yeah, that's, though people in public, if they call me he, they, or he, I will still respond to that because it feels better than she. Like I feel he, they more than she. But again, this is not a rejection of the feminine, right? The existence of, maleness does not, does not negate the femaleness. It does not do that. But I wanted to put this particular, as I was meditating on this energy, it was very important for me to talk about coming home to ourselves and coming home to our bodies and feeling a comfort in them and within them. And, the process of coming out, the first time I wore trans tape, I cried for about, I think, an hour or two. I just wept. Like it was just this deep, deep release of grief that I had carried at not understanding how good it could feel to just be in my body. So when I had the tape on my chest, I looked in the mirror and I saw Charlie for the first time in a way that I hadn't thought was possible. So I thought about the ways that this happens, not just to trans folks, but to cisgender folks as well, in the ways that we welcome these parts of our bodies back home. And that is the offering, is this forgiveness that we present to the body that we push away, and how we welcome it back to ourselves. And it then becomes an altar upon which we commune with spirit, upon which we come into this place of divine communion from within. And there are ways that I feel vulnerable about talking about this, because it's not something that I dislike talking about, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself into, I have to look up the meaning of that phrase, actually, pigeonhole, to make sure it's as inclusive. So if it is not, forgive me, I'm going to look into that after this video. But there are ways that we can, narrow our focus so that people expect only trans topics from trans people, and it essentializes us. So when I was queer, people would look to me as the queer activist, as opposed to someone that is intersectionally oriented and focused on many things, and that there was life beyond me, there was life to me beyond that, right? There's this whole spiritual component that people just had no idea about, not because I wasn't talking about it broadly, but because people never wanted to know that part of me. So it's almost like this calling back home. And this is a large preamble, I realize, for a reading that we will get to, but I wanted to preface it with this kind of storying of the altar of the body that we build for ourselves, and also, befriending it too, in terms of the ways that we can push away knowledge about it and knowing. And there's a song that came to mind as I began my transition last year, and which it is the acoustic version of the song is Be Me, and it's by the band Vincent. So it's a singer-songwriter, VNCNT. It's the acoustic version, and that song I heard it was playing on my shuffle, my Spotify shuffle, and I was driving, and I had to pull over because I burst into tears, because it was just such a beautiful reminder. So just the reminder, this lyric in particular, that's all I need, a reminder that I could be free. And I wanted to put this reading together, in this creative unconscious reading together, as a way of inviting us to remember that we can be free, because there are so many things that we see in the world that might tell us that we are not. There are so many things like policy decisions that are made at so many different levels that might make us feel like we are anything but. But I wanted to do this as an offering to our collective creative unconscious, as a reminder that we can be free, that we are free in more ways than we may realize, despite the systems and the organizations that we operate within and the institutions that we inherit, as with the templates that we do equally. So 10 minutes in, we're going to start this reading. But I just wanted to bring that energy here in a kind of ceremonial entry point into this, and to not just welcome who you are now, but the possibilities for your body as you befriend the altar that it is, as much as it is the connection to your higher self, to spirit, to God, however you see that energy, and knowing that you are placed so delicately and gently within the arms of grace through that whole process. So let's begin, shall we? I would like to invite the angels, my guardian angels, my spirit guides, protectors, teachers, and their healing energy to this space, and I ask that it is a safe and brave space that allows for the fullest expression of our light, humanity, ascension, and healing. Okay, so we're going to dive in here. I'm going to pull some Journey of Love Oracle cards because I can, and I really like them. They take a bit of they do a bit of a deep dive. Let me just move this here. They do a bit of a deep dive into not only love, but into a higher energy, and I just love it. So let me grab the booklet though in advance of pulling the cards. There we go. All right. So, Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious? I just feel like there's some healing. There's so many things that have gone on in the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to offer a space of healing and remembering the altars that our bodies provide us with. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative collective? Wow, there's 4. Okay, so that was all at one time. Spirit's pulling no punches. So sensual awakening. Yeah, this embodiment. Look at that. That's beautiful. It's like the singing. It's like your chakras are singing together. Like that's the song. It's like a frequency and a resonance. So good. And then beauty. I don't know if you can see through the shine there. Yeah, beauty. God speaks. Yeah, that's how I feel like this message came through this morning. I recorded a whole other video last night, and I just woke up and I was like, ooh, this is like, it's not so much, it was part fire in the belly, but then it was also like, it was sitting here too, and I was like, it was needing to be put out. Spiral Dance of the Goddess. Yes, I'm going to read this one to you. I really like that. Yeah, and that's the thing too. A lot of folks tend to think that trans folks or non-binary folks, that there's some hatred of the feminine, but it's actually the opposite. To truly embrace your feminine is it was such a component of transition for me. And even now, I'm on a waiting list for top surgery, but there's a part of me that is, as I go through this summer, I am going to the places where I was unable to take off a shirt or, to be at a beach and just be in my own skin without worrying about people seeing that. And it's not an obvious thing to other people, but to me, it was always this discord. And it's just going to those places and doing a sort of ceremonial, ritualistic tour of the places where my body felt very obvious to me, so that once that surgery takes place, I will be able to, as it heals, go to those places as Charlie. And so nonetheless, deeply embracing our feminine here. So we're going to read Spiral Dance of the Goddess. From a point of light unfolding, we become a soul, then incarnate into a sacred body, and our lives become a work of divine art, a speck of heavenly presence manifesting itself through dimensions of time and space and into a life on earth made manifest. The extraordinary fact of your existence is a divine happening. Oh, love that. Put that on a bumper sticker or a freaking t-shirt. As though the light of the moon is dancing not only upon the water, but inside of it, your ancient light is dipping into the mud of the earth. This is how the soul becomes a divine human in the making. As you sense yourself moving and shifting from light to dark and back again, from knowing to unknowing, you are weaving your consciousness, your divinity, into sacred expression, manifesting your soul essence into the form of your life. Threading the light through the darkness, without even realizing you are doing it, you are gently impregnating the matter of your body, of your life, with light. Your body and your life become luminous, radiant, and you assist others, even just through your presence. It sounds wonderful, and it is, yet it is not always an easy path. As the light travails through darkness, pain and suffering can arise in waves. Be present to it. Trust that it is not a permanent condition, and wait for the spiral to twist from dark to light again, always moving closer and closer to the purity of the center and expanding outward eternally, as though you are being inhaled by the divine, filling cosmic lungs as they reach far and wide, taking in all of life. The message of this oracle to you is that you are growing. You are bringing more of your light into form. You may be meeting obstacles in yourself and in the world, but this is because you are bringing through the light. If there is nothing happening, there would be no obstacle. Bless them as signs that you are proceeding and empower them no more. You shall be. All else is just divine timing. That's really beautiful. If that is all that came through, that would be worth it, my friends. So I'm going to clarify these messages on the outset. In terms of this creative unconscious, I'm getting that we've kind of been ignoring, maybe ignoring these different, the celebration of the moving parts of our body. The moving parts just meaning, we can disconnect, and I say this having, lived this, and not up until coming out. And this is also not to say there are trans folks who don't transition, and they are just as valid, they are just as important, and their journey is just as much one of transness. So let's not singularize the experience based on my own, okay? So I just want to put that at the outset. But I get that this is like all of these energies within you and your body expressing them. It's like they're singing through your energy right now. I just get this radiance, like the ways that you see these images of plants, like the flowers blooming. If you go onto YouTube and look up time lapse, or if you go here, because we're on YouTube, but you go time-lapse flower opening, something along those lines, and you'll see the way that they just dance open and closed, and it's just so beautiful. And I feel like that's the dance that your energy is doing right now, my lovelies, my creative unconscious, this beautiful dance. It's so, the way it feels is just really lovely. So, and then I think that it's almost like being afraid of our own beauty. Being afraid of knowing, this is the Marianne Williamson quote, right? We're not afraid that we're weak. We're afraid we're powerful. We're afraid of our own power, because when we know it, then we have to integrate it. When we know it, to not integrate it is to accept something less than, and then to render ourselves as part of that less than equation as well. So it's just this beautiful energy of needing to embrace. It's like there's a fearfulness about this. This doesn't just have to do with bodies. This can also be with minds. This can be with thoughts. This can be related to family structures or things like that. Anything that would be a template that is inherited. But I think it's like casting aside this idea of beauty, and I've had to work through this too, so I can speak to this process as well, right? With recognizing the beauty of trans bodies that are both in between neither, but also and for those that are more binaried in their transness, right? But it's this in between, right? That, people project maleness onto me in certain circumstances, and then are surprised when they, hear about the ways that my body is still non-binary. And it's like recognizing the beauty in the in-between. This doesn't just apply to transness, though. This is a sort of entry point to it, but this is like thinking about the bodies that are healing, bodies that are in between ideals of what society has given us, right? These also very Eurocentric ideals of beauty, the ways that our bodies just resist, right? There's something that in academia they call the politics of refusal. You can Google that if you want to. It's a beautiful rabbit hole to jump down. But it's this sort of way that our bodies resist, and we can resist in turn seeing them for this beauty that they contain and this light that they contain. And also the ways that people make decisions about bodies, and that we take in and internalize these judgments about those bodies, right? And then decide about our self-worth based on that, right? We decide that we are incapable of deciding for ourselves. We decide that we should not be seen or heard in classrooms. We decide that we should not have access to healthcare that includes our maintenance, right? We decide then that we are less than because these are what the templates that are dominant right now are telling us. So we make all of these decisions, and it's all like I feel like there's just this overflow of beautiful within you. And I'm feeling like there's a way that it can be scary. It can be scary. Systems need to regulate that so that you do not recognize the power that you hold within you, right? Why else would that regulation take place? It doesn't make sense otherwise. And I think that there's this tapping into the understanding that there's something profoundly beautiful about who you are at and within the altar that is your body, and the way that is such a beautiful vehicle and vessel to channel and to commune with spirit, and to be in that beautiful place of communion that I'm seeing like a circuit loop connecting. And I'm seeing the way to get through this, to move through the blocks, is the God Speaks card here, which is to let God speak through you, to let spirit speak through you. And to me, it's a lot of heart energy here, this heart space, letting it be spoken through, even if it means crying, even if it means weeping, right? Sobbing, letting tears flow through you, because what it's doing is clearing the path, because we store them in our bodies, because we feel that we are not entitled to these tears. We are not entitled. Why should we cry? Because it's not a big deal, right? It goes back to these templates, because the templates would tell you that you shouldn't cry. The templates would tell you that tears are not worthy of this situation because other people have said that it's not. No, set that aside and let them flow. Grieve, weep, because it is also the other side of this, is that those tears are equal parts celebration. As the earth smells so delicious after rain, so too does your heart energetically resonate at that same frequency of something beautiful coming from that. So this is about, I think, letting spirit speak through your heart space and just rest in it with you. This is what grace means, right? This is what grace is. Grace is that resting in your heart space with spirit and not running despite the ADHD urge to just vibrate, right? Just being there with it. And that's also present moment awareness. But I feel like this is how we move through the block. And then the beautiful part, drawing strength. This is literally in this spread that I created for this particular reading that I do every week. This position is, where do we pull strength from to help or assist us on this journey? And it's like a complete sentence, right? The spiral the spiral dance of the goddess, the ebb and the flow, that beautiful, back and forth energy. There's no tension in it. And that's profound. This is overwhelmingly beautiful, and I'm so grateful that spirit is speaking through in this way right now. So I hope that it's resonating for you so far. I'm going to pull some cards and just see where this takes us, and the messages that spirit has. But I hope that this is addressing and meeting folks in their shadow in a way that's offering light, and not so much a salve as some healing medicine for it. So Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective for May 28th, please? And I think this is also a good entry point into summer, because we, less clothing, so more body is exposed. And I think about Pride Month is coming up in June as well. So cheers, queers. Happy early Pride Month to those that are watching that are. But, even those who aren't. It's fine. But it's this, this embodiment. Embodiment is such an altar. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? Central awakening, Four of Wands. Yeah, this is what we're holding back on. This is the Four of Pentacles. Sorry, I think it's at Four of Wands. But it could give you that Four of Wands, but this is the Four of Pentacles. This is what we're holding back on, this sensual awakening. And sensuality isn't exclusive to sexuality. It is literally just touching your body and being touched. It is the presence in your body and feeling the senses within your body, right? And, as a neurodivergent person, sensory experiences are everything. And it's not a shadow either. Some people might say, oh, the senses are bad. Don't. No, the senses for some people are an entire way of knowing. So I will absolutely disrupt folks of that notion. It is a tactility. It is a tactile way of existing. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a beautiful gift here. And I think that's where neurodivergence is a natural biological diversion from a norm, because that's the gift that's brought here through neurodivergent folks, neurodivergent minds and bodies, right? That they defy neuronorms, and that's the beauty of it. So I think that it's sort of sinking into this sensuality. This can be, a favorite smell, right? There's certain, there's one cologne, I think it's like One or something by Paco Rabanne. It's like a blue, whatever, I don't know. There was someone came into my work and smelled like it, and I was like, my dude, what is that scent? And he's like, my girlfriend got it for me. I'm like, bro, I don't want you. I want the smell. Tell me, please. I was like, that's all I want to know. But it's those experiences where we are just captured and captivated by the senses, because it is the body expressing itself outwardly in this really profound, and this is a communion, right? This is a communion. So it's leaning into that while resisting the urge to believe that sensory experiences are horrible. Certainly they can disconnect you if you are not using them in a transcendent way, in a very eighth house way, right? But if you are exclusively relying on them as the gateway to God, then that will become a shadow. But unto themselves, they are just profoundly beautiful. So I feel like stepping into that energy. Yeah, and we have the King of Pentacles here. This is the air of earth element. It feels like that it's the establishment of this is very profound, because this tells me that the King of Pentacles energy in this context is that this is where there's something that you're allowing to take deep root, and it is an establishment of a root that is long standing, that it's not going to be disrupted by even a fierce wind. The root goes too deep for that. And I feel like this is a deeply rooted grounding experience for you as well, to be stepping into that energy. And also, just as an aside, I think when it comes to sensuality and the shadow, we often liken the places where we experience sensuality are most often sexualized contexts, right? But have you ever just hugged a friend and said you needed a hug, and then it lasted for like 15 seconds and you just sunk into that? Right? You just sunk into that. Or you hang out with a friend and you're like, I really like how you smell. Like, what is that? It's just allowing yourself to experience this sensual, your sensual existence without, relegating it to something sexual, and detaching yourself from the beauty of that experience in your body. So what else do we have here? So we have the King of Pentacles, and we also have the Two of Wands. So this, I think that, like you can plan for these experiences. It's not something that you can necessarily, let me pen it into my calendar. But I think that this can be something that you build into your experience as part of what it is that you're learning, and how you are coming to know yourself, how you are coming to birth yourself. Because this is really what we're doing. It's a kind of creative birthing, but it is also an equal parts, in equal measure. It is like a reparenting, because we are rebirthing ourselves into this experience. And that's really what a sensuality is, right? It is a recreation of coming out of the womb, of being in the womb. So what we're doing is we're actually giving ourselves permission to enter the world in this sort of this birthing capacity, right? And then what do we shortly thereafter baptize ourselves with in terms of thoughts about that? So it's about sinking into that process too, right? So Two of Wands, and then the Eight of Swords. Yeah, this is definitely mindset shifts that we need to work on around it, and allowing ourselves to just sink into the feeling of being where we are in our bodies. And this is about, there would be days where it would rain and I would want to go for a hike just so I could feel the rain on my face and on my skin. skin. I would wear a t-shirt and then I would bring one to change into afterwards. But just that feeling of the cool rain on your skin, the feeling of things around you. How does the world feel? Not here all the time. Here, yes, but here, how do you perceive the world around you through your senses without maligning yourself or negating it or relegating it to something that is a shadow? Because again, it's one of the holiest ways that we can be connected to spirit, right? Spirit, can you give me some clarification on this beauty card here in terms of what we've been, the knowledge of ourselves that we've been pushing away, and how to move through this in communion with you? That's beautiful. The Page of Wands. So that is the earth of fire. So Page of Wands, beautiful energy here. I feel like this is like the offering that we're making to ourselves. I'm hearing burnt offering. So it could be some kind of incense or sacred smoke. This is also something that you might want to do during the Sagittarius full moon on June 14th, I believe. June 14th, or the 11th, something. I think it's the 14th though. But yeah, this is that offering. And what are we letting? So this is like a grounded burning away of things and letting it turn to ash, and then using the ash to grow something beautiful, right? Using the ash to let ourselves emerge, right? It's almost like this. I feel like it's an alchemical process, but this is what we need to do, is to step into that energy. And we've been ignoring it, I think, because it may seem so subtle and so small, this Page of Wands energy. It may not seem that profound, but yet it is, right? It is so much so. It is so much so. All right, Spirit, what else do you have for my creative unconscious collective here? Page of Wands. Oops, let me do this here. I don't really read reversals because it says the same thing both ways, in this deck at least. Six of Swords. Yeah, this is the moving away. I feel like the Six of Swords, it's almost, what I'm hearing is rite, R-I-T-E. Like this is almost like a rite of passage out of one and into the next stage of your life, or a next stage of a spiritual development or awakening or evolution, something along those lines. The Ace of Cups. This, to me, this absolutely confirms that this is the shift that opens up not just love, because this is where too we start to understand that it's not about just you see your own beauty so other people can see it. You see your own beauty and embody it, because that's how other people can also enjoy it, right? That is how you can enjoy that of other people's, because you are sitting and resting at that altar within yourself. You are coming to that altar with offerings, not sacrifices. We don't want sacrificial lives, right? You know, when I was really heavily involved in the church, not to bring too many biblical things in this, you know, I used to have to defend my queerness, biblically speaking, because people would throw a lot of, you know, well, what about this? And what about this? And it would be the clobber passages is what they're called. So I would often, yeah, that's the hermit and the devil, wisdom versus, you know, this ways people would approach the queerness. So I found one that was deeply helpful, and you know, even speaking in biblical terms, there's a passage where, you know, Jesus referred to wanting that he came because he desired mercy, not sacrifice, and that was referencing Hosea 6:6. So it's like, again, not to get too biblical, because my beliefs kind of stretch into, around, outside of, and through many things. But it's that idea, mercy, not sacrifice, right? Mercy, not sacrifice. And this is where we come to understand that our bodies are altars where we can leave things like foods that nourish us, sleep, rest. How are we taking care of our bodies in a practical sense every day, right? What are we filling our bodies with? How are we responding to the needs of our body? You know, for example, when you get haircuts, if you are a tactile person, do you pay the extra if it's possible for you to get that that head massage with the shampoo and everything, just because it feels good, right? When do you lean into that? Do you lean into experiences like that? Massages, for example. Do you allow yourself that pleasure? Do you allow yourself that joy? So it's looking at all of those things too. But I think that it's like the denial of our own beauty. And I feel like this is a wonderful progression, because I feel like it's a recognition of what's inside of you coming outwards. And if it has anything to do with this reading, amazing. I'm appreciative and grateful, but I hope that it stretches beyond any, you know, awareness or realization that you have from this. Bodies are just so beautiful to me, like all of them. I think about, taking testosterone for my transition, and how my hips are shifting and watching that change, and my arms, like the muscles are developing differently, and seeing the stretch marks as my body becomes my own. It is just so it's such a delight to watch, just to watch the body change in so many different ways. It's magnificent, really. And I hope that everyone has that feeling of sinking into themselves so powerfully, and just seeing marks or scars or lines or creases, every bit of it as divine. It's almost like that's where the divine has kissed you. That's where the divine has caressed you, right? And thinking about it in those terms. Thinking about it in those terms as well. So we have the 10 of Wands. Sorry, 7 of Wands. Ever interesting, though. Yeah, we have the 10 of Wands. I keep saying 10. Maybe this is like a release. You're releasing this here. The Ace of Swords is on the bottom. Yeah, this is... So I'm going to put that down as following this. But it is like this... I feel like this is a release. This 7 of Wands is, I think, a bit of defensiveness. I look at this as different constructs and ways to build fences in their parts. There are fences with 2 lines across. There are fences with posts. There are fences. These are the ends that tie together. It's almost like this is like it would be the IKEA instructions of fence building. In this energy, and I feel like that's what we're moving through, and we're moving through and away from this and into our truth, and this is also defending our truth, right? This is fearlessly defending our bodies and defending our truths, and defending what they mean in the context, again, of all of these templates that we inherit that aren't really our own. They're not really our own. And what are we allowing to be our own? What are we giving Spirit freedom to speak through our bodies about? How are we allowing Spirit to whisper through our bodies into the world? Because again, we are spiritual beings, but we're also having a human experience that we need to honor, right? So we have God speaks here. Spirit, can you tell me a little bit about this card and your speaking through us, to us, for my creative unconscious collective? God speaks, the Hermit. Yeah. Wisdom. I feel like what came to mind just now was the smoke coming from the chimney, or the chimney stack there, and how I can always tell in winter that one of my neighbors, or someone in the neighborhood, has a wood like a fireplace that burns wood, and as opposed to gas fireplaces. But you can tell because you smell. It's this smell. It's like it smells so good. It smells like campfire and comfort. And I can hear the crackle of a fireplace right now. And I think it's almost like that's within you, and it's like stoking that fire. And that's how Spirit is speaking to you, but you may only smell the smoke. You may only smell the fire. You may not see it. You may not see signs directly yet, but all you need is just that tiny sense and a little bit of trust that it's happening. And I think that sort of like Spirit knocks so gently sometimes. And I feel like that recognition is opening the door slowly to Spirit. So Spirit, what other messages do you have for my creative collective here? Hermit, and then we have the 5 of Swords. Oh my gosh. My Roman numerals. 5 of Swords. Okay. I think this is kind of addressing the ego, and addressing the ego and the way that you've built up an identity around your swords, your not just truths here. I'm not talking about truths. I'm talking about attachments. I'm talking about thought forms, thought attachments that we build to who we are and who we're supposed to be through thoughts. And this 5 of Swords is telling me, it's almost like the story of how Spirit is. This is where it's like the light needs to get in, right? All of the cuts that these 5 swords would leave behind might leave you feeling like there's some way that, like you have to win, like the winning needs to take place, but there's nothing to win, right? It's kind of antithetical to spirit, because when you're truly in presence, you're not winning anything. It just becomes a non-concern, because you don't have to win people's approval of your body. You don't have to win, you don't have to win alignment to specific beauty standards. You don't have to win something like thinness. You don't have to win that, because you understand that fundamentally who you are in this very moment is perfect. Not because it's a platitude or some kind of platitudinal overture, I'm going to be nice and say it. No, because it's fucking true. It's just true. It's just true. But I think about all of the ways it's like I'm hearing death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it's just like it's that maybe ego death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it's this idea of the ways that we injure ourselves slowly over time with our thoughts, and it's almost like that's where it's like God can't really speak to you in those moments, because you're getting in your own way in a specific in a regard, right? Two of Cups, yeah. I think that's the offering, right? These are love cards, but I'm speaking more in a higher consciousness way and to you, about you. So, I mean, this could be an entry point for love and relationship and soulmate. But I think this is like the discovery of you being your own soulmate, right? I'm hearing two of one. So this is a coming together of these energies within you, which is beautiful. And I think that too is also a portal, right? That too is an opening up and a gateway, so that when you recognize this energy within yourself, you cease to look for it in other people. And I'm not talking about being in like this Nine of Pentacles, confidence, outward looking. I'm talking about this kind of peace that comes from within. It's a hermit or high priestess energy, where you go from this Nine of Pentacles confidence to a knowing that's much deeper, because confidence, you do tend to, and it's important to do that, but it's like, this runs a lot deeper. This is a consciousness energy, not just a conscious energy, if that makes sense. So following the Two of Cups here, what else do we have, Spirit? What else have you got for me? And then this is the Ten of Swords, finally. So this is the putting down of things. This is the setting the difficult thoughts down. This is putting the negatives to rest. This is allowing yourself to rest. This is understanding that the pain of whatever it was that you were carrying about your body and taking up space therein and outside of it, it is knowing that it was not without purpose, and stepping into the purpose and understanding and seeing it for what it was, without needing it to be anything other than that. And forgiving yourself for thinking differently, forgiving yourself for thinking otherwise of your body, because it splits you every time. It splits you every single time, and it's a way that also tears at your energy, so that you can never really come from a unified place, right? So this to me is you deciding and then making conscious decisions to choose. What are you choosing? It's not just about choosing you. This is also about choosing. This is about choosing what it is that you are going to let be your template for self-love. This is about choosing what it is you are going to let be the paradigm that you will believe in, and that will equally invest in you and pour into you. And this isn't just deciding a simple paradigm as in a belief. This is also about how you move in the world, how you take up space in the world. The template within which you operate informs all of your energy. It informs your relationships. It informs your behavior. It fills your cup, whether you believe it or not. It is an action that does not require your belief in it to exist or to happen. So what is happening in that moment is through and by virtue of your relationship to things like your body, where you take up space, where your energy fills, where your energy expands, where you feel your energy around you and within you. You are participating in a template, whether you believe it or not. So it's about choosing the one that isn't just going to be to your benefit, but to the benefit of others, because the way that you operate within yourself is the way that you operate within the world. And it is now more than ever important, if not necessary, for us to get into a place where we need to be in that space of choosing love over fear, because the fear, we can tell that shit hasn't worked. It does not work. It just doesn't, right? So, and I think this is you putting that to rest. Yeah, it's putting that to rest. And then clarifying the spiral dance of the goddess, we have the Page of Pentacles, which is this, I feel like this is like seeding new light. This is planting a seed for something. It's a small, and there's a quote that comes to mind that is, speak your mind, even if your voice shakes. And this page, this initiate, where we're not really sure, and it goes beyond just mantras and affirmations. It goes beyond this focus on the self in that way. This is connecting and plugging into this higher consciousness that is then part of a collective, so that when you do something, beneficial to your energy, and that celebrates your body in place where it is, much like a mycelial network, there are electrical signals that go out and that hit the collective, bam, 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 with this positive light. So that's where it sort of benefits the all, as opposed to just you in your not just ego identity, but your embodied spirit, the spirit embodied within you. So it is sending signals of a beneficial ecosystem and emplacement within that. So I feel like this is that seated light. It's not a fire energy, but it is still resonating as a seated light, because it is a planted, and now I'm seeing fireflies, which is beautiful. Fireflies across the landscape. Yeah, there's the fire. Queen of Wands in the world. This is passion. This is, again, deep embodiment. This is love. This is also Saturn. This is part of probable Saturn retrograde coming up. Maybe this is some work that we will find come to the fore, and work come to the fore not in that we're pouring ourselves into it, but pouring ourselves out so that we can then look at what it is based on the things that are just happening. This is about ease. This isn't about effort. We're not charging forward like a mercenary on a Knight of Swords horse. We are sitting in the moment in place and looking through. And these are dandelions. And I say of dandelions that, they're delicious. They taste a lot like arugula. I don't eat them or pick them off lawns that have been sprayed. Ooh, that'll lead to a stomachache and a half. I haven't experienced it, but I've read about it. So this here, dandelions to me are, weeds are they turn to wishes within a week or two of their emergence, right? And it's such a beautiful analogy. And then if you look here too, there's a heart. It's the shape of a heart, which for those who know from the days where I wrote on a blog called the Finding Hearts Project, right? That is deeply meaningful, right? It's one of the symbols that connects me to spirit consistently and profoundly. Having a bad day, a heart will show up out of nowhere, and that's how I know that spirit's saying it's going to be okay. You've got this. This is just me poking my head in to say I love you, and that to me is what that represents. So maybe you can borrow that too, and finding your own signs through this, right? But that's where this energy is really showing up. I think this is, and what a beautiful integration too of these energies. We have this clarity of thought here. We have this clarity of thought meeting with this grounded and nourished, well-watered fire. I feel like that is the equation of an unstoppable force. And that unstoppable force, I think, is love. It is love. And what greater thing is there for us to offer one another than comfort in our own bodies and communion within ourselves? Because then when we join with others in moments of communion, like sex or sensuality or relationship or presence or being with, that offers so much more. It is a vast expanse that far exceeds that present moment, but all we feel is the present moment, and it stretches through and away, and it is. I am seeing like a harp. I am seeing an energy play a harp that just resonates around and through. Spirit, what other messages do you have? The Emperor, yeah. The Emperor and the Nine of Pentacles on the bottom. I feel like this Emperor energy, this Aries energy is the I, me, my. And that's where when we tend to this within ourselves, it's not even that we hear a lot of talk about codependency and effort. And the effort comes from breaking free of this pattern. But I find that when we sit in this energy, the pattern of codependency becomes less appealing. Certainly, it's important for us to see the processual nature of this and how it is a process and how it evolves, how it exists within us so that we can then deconstruct it piece by piece and then rebuild and replace that energy with something more nourishing. But this in particular is showing up to me in a way that reminds me that, and reminds us perhaps, that when we're in this space, that codependency cannot exist because it is a completely different resonance and frequency. This is like a portal energy to me, right? This is a portal energy to me. So from this particular card, in the context of this particular energy, what we're seeing is that they are two different energies. And that's not to say that these cards are representative of that, but what I am getting intuitively from this is that codependency cannot exist in the light of this true embodiment, in this true beauty, and beholding that part of yourself, beholding that within you. That's the lyric. That's all I need, a reminder that I could be free. And when you are free, when you're truly free, not just sovereignty as a concept, not just agency as a concept, but when you are truly free and giving yourself wings from within, you are vibrating at a frequency that is allowing other things to align with you, and it is a purging unto itself. That's why high vibration is an ease. It is an effort. Effort cannot exist at the same time as this. So when you are in that high vibe place, it's not that things are working out perfectly all the time, always. It's that your frequency cannot hear, respond to, and cannot pull towards the things that would be filled with effort, because it is just ease. It just is. So I'm going to, that was like massive channeling. Anyways, so I'm going to pull from, it feels like it's like 400 degrees in myself right now too. So, I'm going to pull from this chakra deck here. What are you offering your body of yourself and your energy? This is the question that keeps rolling around right now. Space. Yes, this is about taking up space, right? That energy, this is about taking up space, because it's not about the external force exerted onto the world as we're taking up space. This is not about I need space in terms of I need to break free from something to obtain a thing. This has everything to do with what's going on in here. This has everything to do with what's going on in your body. So when it comes to taking up space, what does that mean? It does not mean what you might think it does, though the templates that we're kind of inheriting and that we're choosing, what is it? It's almost, I'm getting an antique market, like we're walking through an antique market and deciding which nostalgic thing we're going to hold on to, which nostalgic thing we're going to let go or place on consignment in someone else's booth, right? This is a decision-making time. And I think that this idea of taking up space goes well beyond exertion. Taking up space goes well beyond pouring out. Taking up space first starts with the recognition of the space and container that you are, and how you are coming into communion with yourself in the present moment, right? How are you allowing yourself to just be? How are you allowing yourself to resonate at that frequency of ease within your body? And not just feeling good in your own skin. It's not just about feeling confident. This is about an alignment. This is about an alignment and a shifting of energy. When was the last time that you had goosebumps or, God bumps, whichever you refer to it as, and you just let yourself milk that moment because the wind felt nice on your skin, or the way that the wind was blowing through your hair, it gave you goosebumps, the way that an epiphany sent chills, good chills all throughout your body. When was the last time you sank into that and let it ride through you, the energy of that ride through you and ripple through you like waves? Being in that is another way of taking up space, because it is embodying yourself fully, and it's not just about allowing the energy to become something as an external force pushed outward. That will come naturally when you're in that place of being a container for God. When you allow that, when you allow your body to become an altar that allows you to commune with spirit, to be in communion with spirit on a regular basis. This is about prayer. This is about meditation. This is about doing things that make you forget that you are in a body, because that is a taking up space. That is a flow state, right? So let me just read this card. Space. I have all the space that I need to flourish, grow, and express myself. I take up space in all areas of my life. The space around me is clear, and I continue to cleanse and make sacred my space. I have space. Consciousness. I surrender the struggle of my ego and conditioning and allow guidance and knowledge to raise my consciousness. Knowing that I am enough, I allow the unfolding of my inner magnificence and beauty. I practice stillness and emptiness, surrendering to higher consciousness in and around me. I am conscious. What is beauty other than a consciousness? What is beauty other than a consciousness that we have all tuned into over time? What is that? And then what happens when you choose a different conscious frequency, a frequency of consciousness? When you decide that and you step into that and you embody that for yourself. Harmony. Absolutely. Oh, this is so beautiful. I hope that it's resonating for you because it just feels so gorgeous. My mind, body, and spirit work in harmony with each other, aligned with both my will and the divine will. I have balance in my life with room for both pleasure and purpose. My giving and receiving of love and abundance are in perfect balance. I am balanced. And what's going through my mind as well is just that as we, as consciousness raises collectively, what we'll probably find is that these different conceptualizations of beauty shift and change. And I feel like we're going through a purging period right now collectively. So collectively, we're in a place of recognition of what is next, what is more, what is it's like stepping through the fog, and that can feel heavy. But I feel that there are going to be ways where in this embodiment, this divine embodiment, things like nation, things like the boundaries, the territorialization of where we are contextualized will change and shift. And I know that some folks are quite nervous about this, but I feel like there's something about that that's shifting on a collective level. And I mean, it's no secret that's happening. I know it's very sensible. It's very easy to sense and very tangible as it's happening out in the world. But this, I'm going to pull from the notes from the universe on love and connection, just to bring us back down from what feels like a very heightened channeling. Oh my gosh. Convince yourself, not others. I feel like that's convince yourself of your greatness. Convince yourself of your divinity, right? This isn't approving energy. It doesn't need to do anything. And approving, approving, and a space, proving energy. We don't need, this is not an evidential or evidence-based thing. This is not an evidential doing. I surrender it all. That's the altar. That is the offering. Surrendering it all. My darlings, thank you so much for your energy here and for your time. This is your creative unconscious reading for May 28th. I hope that it resonated. If it did, please like and subscribe. It helps me to grow the channel. I'm very grateful for your energy here. I feel like the more folks that watch, the more messages like this have been coming out, and they existed regardless, but I just feel very grateful to be a vessel to them and to share that wisdom with you, with all of you. So thank you so much. And do connect on the channel. There are other ways to do so, so I welcome that. But if this is where we part, I hope that wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, that it finds you very well and wrapped up in remembrance of your own divinity. And remember, that's all we need, a reminder that we can be free. Have a great day.